Hello, hello, and welcome to Mentor Moments Growing Beyond Failure with Dr. Ahan Hunter. This is episode 5. We're rolling. This episode today is going to be about why, the keyword diversity. Oh, diversity. Why it matters, what it means to someone like myself in the field of medicine, and what you have to do, in my opinion, on how do you choose a mentor and how you use diversity in a way to help figure that out, if that makes sense. Again, if you are enjoying this, if you love it, you hate it, even if you hate it, but you want to hear more, like, subscribe, find me on Instagram, Dr. A. Hunter, on YouTube, on all the social media platforms that I can think of, TikTok, all the things. And you can listen to the podcast on multiple streams, Spotify, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, all the things. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in and let's go. So, number one, why I think diversity matters a lot in the field of medicine and really just in higher education as a whole. So, first of all, if you hear some things, my son is above me and I don't know what he's doing. He's supposed to be sleeping. But when it comes to diversity and why I think it matters, I think in today's day and age, the words become stigmatized and people don't want to use that anymore. They want to say that, all these different things are diverse. But to me, first of all, I identify as a black male who is heterosexual and Christian, and what else do I identify with? I don't know, other different things. But those are my main things. That's what when I step out into the world, that's what I try to portray and try to live. I let my truth be that every day. And I think that there is something to be celebrated about differences. In my opinion, I think America as a country was founded on principles that celebrated differences. As life went on year by year, decade by decade, in hundreds of years now, we have constantly celebrate different individuals, not because they are different, but because different ideas and different cultures help to uplift and help us to constantly move forward. And I think we lose sight of, hurting people, coming back to people saying, you can't call me this, you can't call me that. Why would you say these words, this thing and that thing? And I think we lose sight of, what has made us as a community in America great. And to me, what has made the country as a whole fantastic is this idea that I can identify as a black man from South Carolina, but also really feel like I can fit in and empathize and feel very comfortable with another black man that may have grown up in California, because there are just certain differences in culture that are specifically to black culture that are different from other culture. And I think that is, to me, powerful. You see it all over social media all the time. Back when Twitter was Twitter before, it used to be Black Twitter. It was a thing on there. And there were things on there that you just shared as a culture, as a community. And that is beautiful to me. I think the idea that you can take people from various backgrounds who have never met one another at any point in time, and there are these certain values of black culture, for instance, that permeate throughout America as a whole. And it may not be every single black family, but it just permeates where you at least identify and can recognize what that idea or food group or type of food or all these different song choices, whatever it may be, are. And that then helps to bring you a little bit closer together. And I think that should be shared amongst multiple different races, ethnicities, cultures amongst the country. And the reason why I feel like it matters is because when it comes to seeing someone that looks like yourself in a higher position, when you are a young person in this country, it's hard to fathom that you can be a something if you've never seen someone be there before. For me, I had never met a black male doctor. Make sure I'm not going to misspeak. Yeah, until I was in college. Now that I'm talking like 20 years of life, never met one, which is crazy to me, like insane. Somehow, my mother instilled values in me that helped me realize my mother and my family as a whole, but my mom was very stern. My mom, my pops, my dad, my whole family, there were so many people that helped get me to where I am, but a lot of people instilled things in me to help me push me towards the goal where I am today. But man, would it have been nice to have seen a black doctor before then. You know what? I misspoke. I just realized. Actually, in high school, because I actually joined and just realized I joined a program that I'm going to talk about later that was about mentoring people of color and trying to get a lot of not only black men but black women in the field of medicine just to get you there. The one thing I think about when it comes to diversity and choosing a career and finding a mentor and all of that kind of lumped up in one is if you've ever thought about taking on a new hobby, a new task, a new something, right? But you don't know anything about it. Let's say you want to learn how to golf. You have never picked up a golf club a day in your life. Today, what you would do is you go on YouTube and type in how do you start golfing. But before YouTube existed, what would you do, right? Would you just go to a golf range? Well, if you go to a golf range, then where's the closest golf range? How do you find that? If you know somebody, if you have a friend, family member, whoever, who happens to be a member of a golf club, then what you can do is say, hey, can I tag along with you? I want to learn how to play golf, right? It's about those connections. Well, if you meet somebody there while you're golfing that you seem to connect with because they are either if you're a woman, another woman, or if you're I don't know, German man from German culture, and you see another German man who speaks German, you're like, oh my gosh, we can speak German together. Like you vibe, you start to have more of a plug into this world of golf. And now it's not just about golf anymore, it's about community. And you use golf as a means to build that community. And I think medicine is one of those ways to where you can build community in the same way. But if you don't find people and see people that look like you, that you identify with, that you can see yourself in, then it becomes hard. And I think that's why medicine as a whole has taken a big hit over the last numbers say about 30 years. I have chart pulled up here. So in the first episode, I talked about the number of medical students going and getting into medical school has like dropped. And I use medicine to reference because that's just what I do for a living. So that's, what I do. But if you want to apply this to any field, I think it's pretty much synonymous with a lot of major fields in out there: engineering, aerospace, physics, applied sciences, the business, marketing, etc. But the number in medicine, the number of applicants going into applying for medical school has actually gone down over the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Each year has gotten less and less and less. I mean, less applicants each year. If you take that and then you get further into the weeds and you look at just people who identify as African American or black, and you look at those numbers since, 1940, there was a dip down. It's about 1960, and then little by little, the number of applicants has gone up. Now, when you look at black men and you look at black women, the actual number of black male applicants has been stagnant and or gone down, but black women has jumped up tremendously. And I think part of the push and why there are a lot more black women in medicine is because if you right now, I started this whole podcast series and I started getting into social media a little bit more. I'm not a big social media person, so I'm stepping out of my comfort zone here, but I started stepping out there and I started trying to find a lot of other, not only people of color, but just physicians on social media who are very successful. And you just on face value see what they look like. Many of them are women. If they are not a woman, if they are a man, many of them are not of color. Many of them are white men. And you look at the women, there are a lot of white women, but there are a lot of black women in social media, in the social media space, a lot, way more than black men. And I think that is a part of it. Like when you see somebody, for instance, my daughter has decided that she today wants to go to med school and eventually become a dermatologist. Like, she can go on social media and find multiple social media personalities who are dermatologists who are out here trying to change the world of dermatology, not only for just that field, but just as a whole, and try to identify and be mentor for other Black women coming up in the field. But there aren't many Black men out there, just in general. So I want to use this as a place to help uplift and also propel other Black men to kind of say, you know what, I can do it. You know, I can be a physician, I can be engineer, I can do X, Y, and Z. I know a lot about medicine, about OB/GYN as a whole. I know a lot more about OB than I do about general medicine, but I have an idea. I've been in for a hot second. I also have a lot of contacts and friends and colleagues who are in other fields who I constantly, when I'm talking to different various people, I try to put in contact with, because I feel like you have to contact and be in touch with people who want to be where you want to go. So there was a program when I was in high school. It was called a Gentleman and a Scholar program. It was out of MUSC, and this program was started by, I can't remember how many, but I want to say there was at least 5 Black male medical students that were there, and their goal was to sort of change the landscape of South Carolina and get more Black males into medicine. And so I joined this program. It was probably one of the biggest sparks to light a little bit of oomph under me to get me to push me forward. And these guys, they weren't trying to change the world in a sense of, you know, challenging us to solve the world's problems or anything. It was legit just, what do I do as a medical student on a daily basis? What is medicine as a whole? How do you get here? How do you, they taught me how to, first people to teach me, like, get rid of your bogus, crazy name email, come up with just a first name, last name, and maybe some credentials at whatever.com as an email. Use that email as your general application email, etc., applying for jobs, whatever that thing is. Taught me how to present myself in a room where there are a lot of people that don't look like me and may assume something about me just on face value. And you walk into a room with a presence and you just show them that, no, I'm more than what you think I am. And these guys, it was more than just teaching someone how to just do medicine. And eventually one day, my goal is to start something like that, but on a larger scale. But we're going to start small, and we're going to crawl, and then we're going to walk, then we're going to run. So just go with me as we take off. But I think we need more avenues like that to help push folks there. The other reason why I think diversity matters and how to choose a mentor and trying to figure out how to choose a mentor and who do you go to, I think it matters not only because you can see yourself in someone else, but also there are other people who feel very invested in, just like those guys who were med students felt invested in someone like myself trying to get to where they are. It fuels people, and you have to start somewhere. And sometimes what you do is you start with people who you identify with, and that could be, it may not be skin color per se. It may be the wealth gap, where you come from a humble beginnings, as some say, and you want to reach back and help those in those same situations. Maybe you came from a situation where you were adopted and you were at a home and you want to go back and kind of help people understand that you can do more than what that home then provides for you. And I just think that there's a lot of different avenues. But to me, if you are in the position where you want to get to a place, either become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, or whatever that thing may be, my big thing is the internet is powerful. Search out people on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Follow folks who are doing something you want to do and message them. Send them a direct message. Hey, I'm so-and-so. I know you probably get 1,000 messages a day, but I would love to connect with you more to learn more about how I can do what you're doing. I think that's huge and that's powerful. You're getting, if hopefully face-to-face, but at least like direct advice from someone who may have come from a background that you may have come from to kind of help you get to where you want to go. This process of becoming a professional in America is a marathon and not a sprint. And you have to constantly be making the right decisions to go from point A to point B. Because if you're not, you can stumble and you can fall. And if you don't have somebody there to help pick you back up and say, hey, don't worry about it. Let's go. I'll help push you this time. I can get you through this. Like, if you don't have that, then you're way more likely to fail. And I think the fear of failure is what leads to the biggest reason why a lot of people don't make it to where they want to go. I'm going to say it one more time. The fear of failure, I think, prevents a lot of people from getting where they want and or need to go. Fear is powerful. It is strong. It's strong in medicine. I think when you are in college, med school, then residency, there's a lot of fear that's pushed on a lot of people constantly. Don't do this, don't do that. If you do this, then this thing will happen. You don't want to make this mistake, because if you make this mistake, it could be the biggest one ever and you'll never get to point C in your process. And I personally think that is hogwash. I'm trying not to cuss. I think it's crap. And I think that we have to allow people, we have to teach grace, and we have to allow people to make mistakes, but we have to teach them how to move on from it. Mistakes happen. You are not God, right? My name ain't God, but I do my best to try to be as perfect as possible. The one thing, being a physician, also being a surgeon, is that when I am operating on somebody, like I'm literally going to operate tomorrow, I'm operating on somebody and they're asleep, my life legit is in their hands. I could make a crazy mistake and all of a sudden their life could be gone in a snap, in an instant. Every surgeon, anybody that operates, knows that and understands that. So there's a reason why there's such a rigor to get to where I am now, because you have to be above reproach. You have to not only know how to do the surgery, but you got to be good with these too. You got to be good with your hands. And if you're not, then you're going to have a lot of difficulties. Well, to get good mentally and to get good with your hands, you need good mentors. You need people who are going to really sit with you and help you learn from the first time you've ever operated on somebody and you're scared as all get out and you're shaking and you're nervous and you're sweating bullets. Like, to have somebody to just like walk you through, literally hand hold you through that surgery piece by piece, and have that happen one time after the other and one time after the other, after the other, after the other, until you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I got this. And that's what mentoring is. It's having a person that invests time or money or just advice constantly in you to help bring you up. And that mentor has to be somebody that you trust. And the reason I talk about diversity is because one of the easiest ways to break a barrier and to feel like you can feel more comfortable with a person and eventually grow to trust them is if you feel like you can see yourself in them. If that person has some likes that you already know that you have too. So, I talk to a lot of medical students. I teach med students as part of my job, and some of them I call it vibe. I like to vibe, and so I vibe with some med students more than others. And the ones that I vibe with more, I give a lot more advice to. I take them under my wing and I say, hey, listen, this is what I think you should do. What do you want to do with your life? Where you want to go? This is where I want to push you. I want to push you a little bit more. Step outside of your comfort zone. Let's go. Let's ride. And I think that when I feel that feeling of like, I can help them a little bit more, like I can mentor them, that's when, and that comes from literally just being with a person. You feel like you have some similarities, like you can make a joke and laugh together. You talk about family. You can be a little bit vulnerable. Vulnerability is a part of this whole process. You have to be able to be vulnerable with a person. You can't be vulnerable to everybody because some people will take advantage of you. So you want to pick and choose who you're going to be vulnerable with. And a mentor, a true one, is somebody who you can sit and cry with. You can call and be upset. You can call and cuss. And a person who you feel like will give you sound really. It's going to be biased. There's no such thing as unbiased because we all have an unconscious bias inherently, but sound advice that is going to be uplifting and pushing you forward and not pulling you down constantly. So the one piece in all this I think matters the most is that it doesn't really matter that much if I am the best surgeon in the world or the best OB/GYN in the world if it doesn't reflect on the patient care, right? If people don't get fantastic care from me or someone that I have mentored to then become an OB/GYN or become whatever else they want to be and don't provide amazing care, then it's all for nothing. It means like jack. So all of this is for patient care. There's data that has been shown that if a patient feels comfortable with their provider, and sometimes that comfort is seeing someone that looks like them, if they have that comfort, then they will have better care. That's just point blank. That's a thing and it will happen. And the one thing that I feel like you have to do and be mindful of is that we have to get more people that look like the world into this space so that the patients will feel more comfortable, which then will make you feel more comfortable and feel like they trust you, and then you then can provide fantastic care for them. And again, I'm talking in medicine, but this is, this can go out in any field. And you just have to be able to get to a point to where people trust you. And to build trust with a stranger isn't easy. And sometimes, like there have been times where I've had a patient who is much older than I, 70s. I walk into the room. I wish I had a video camera on my chest because people's eyes light up, and for better or for worse. And most of the time, it's a expression of surprise, and they're like, "Whoa, I did not expect you to walk through this door." And I understand, like they're again in OB/GYN. I don't have the numbers as far as the percentage of black males in OB/GYN, but I'm gonna tell you it's probably in the less than 2% as a whole. I've only met 2 other black OB/GYNs in my entire life, and I do this for a living. So like that's it. Black male, OB/GYNs my entire life. And more black women, I've met many more, but like black men, they ain't a lot. So I think that like there is a surprise factor when I walk into a room versus others. But I learned early that, again, I identify as a heterosexual black man from South Carolina. I know that instead of saying ain't, I say ain't. I my speech is a little different. But I personally decided some years ago, I think when I was in my second year of residency, that I am not going to hide my blackness per se. I'm not going to shutter it for the comfort of others. For someone to feel comfortable with me, I have to be comfortable in the skin that I'm in. And I have to be very comfortable with owning and living up to who I am. And by doing that, I think then others can be very comfortable and vulnerable with me. So I have to be vulnerable with myself first before then I can push that on to others. And so I constantly say I am unapologetically black. And that's just me. When I operate in the OR, I play all the music I love. I play old school 80s Prince, and I go all the way up to, whatever comes out now. I don't like the new school music, but I'm a J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and that's blasting. And if you don't like it, let me know when I'm in the OR. Let me know if it's offensive to you, sure, but I may have to tell you to leave because I got to be vibing myself while I'm operating. I got to be comfortable. I need music to roll. I need music to really be in the zone and be operating. And so, but I got to feel comfortable in that space. I'm not going to play bluegrass. That ain't me. I don't love bluegrass. Some people do. I grew up, again, South Carolina. I went to college in South Carolina. I went to a predominantly white college. I heard a lot of bluegrass. There was a lot of country music that was played on blast. I know any of it. I didn't grow up listening to country music. I grew up listening to gospel, hip hop, R&B. That was my trifecta. And then I grew up listening to classical music because I was in the band. And that's all I had. But country music as a whole was not my thing. So you're not going to hear me playing blasting country music because that ain't me. I like some new school country now, like some Zach Brown. Yeah. But some of that other stuff, just not me. So you're not going to hear it. And far be it from me to try to pretend as if like, oh yeah, I love that. Like you would never hear me say it. I don't lie. Like, no. Again, I'm unapologetically black. That is who I am as a OB, as an individual. So that's just how I identify. And I think that by doing that, I think people then can say either they vibe with me or they don't. And if you don't, that's fine. I can find you another mentor or find you another person. But like, if you do, then you know that this is, when you see me and you meet me, this is all me all day long. I don't change who I am for anybody, for my kids, for my wife, for anybody. Like this is me. So I think you have to do the same for yourself. I constantly am preaching like you gotta know yourself well to survive and do well in a very high functioning, high pressure field, whatever that field is. Because if you don't feel comfortable in you're seeking something constantly, then it's going to be so difficult for you to make it all the way. Okay. So, and then the last bit of advice as far as all this is concerned, why diversity matters. Again, we talked about patience and how all of this is for naught if the patients, the people I take care of, have terrible outcomes and they don't feel comfortable with who I am. But the other reason it matters a lot is because to me, again, for what I do, if I can't empower other people who want to be where I am, who either look like me or don't, but want to be where I am or more, then I feel like, what's the point? What am I doing? What's my purpose in life? So I feel like one of my purposes is to reach out and connect with a lot of different people, a lot of different individuals to help them become the best them that they can be. Some people say to fulfill potential, but I feel like the potential is one of those phrases and thrown out all the time. And it's like, what is someone's true potential? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, But the one thing I tell you is like, what is your dream? I want to help a lot of people get to and fulfill their dream so that they can wake up and their dream is not only a dream, but it's reality. So that's the goal. That's the goal of this podcast. That's the goal of all the social media content. That's the goal of constantly putting information out there. I want your dream to turn into reality when your eyes open. That's the plan. Okay. Ultimately, and at the end. So thank you guys again. This is one of my shorter episodes, so we're going to just cut it off here. Again, I'm Dr. A.N. Hunter. Please like, subscribe, follow all the platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the things. And look out for episode 6.